So we are the Soggy Bottom Boys, and we had the unknown hormone number 737. Um, and so how we started out was with the data, and we compared the control group to the experimental, um, and we basically went through and ex compared to see what increases or decreases in the weight and size were significant. Um, and so everything that is in white on these tables are significant, and then everything that is in black was not. So the ones that were significant were the body weight, thymus, the tibia width, ovaries, uterus, um, and then continuing on to the next page. Same with the seminal vesicles and the ventral prostate. And so this is a bit more concise of what all of it was. Um, and on this slide, as you can see, the white represents the organs that were of the sexual reproductive system, and then the black were the other. Um, and we took this as a sign that it could possibly be an androgen because of all the variables slash organs that we did see. It seemed to be affecting majority um, of the sexual reproductive system organs, um, and most of them were, I mean, the uterus, seminal vesicle, and prostate were all well above 50%, and then the ovaries were well above 20 compared to the other things that were significant um, minus weight. But um, and then this is our glucose tolerance test right here, which didn't really have too much of an impact on ours. There was a slight increase, but um, other than that, there wasn't too much there. Um, but yeah, that's our glucose tolerance test. And then, yeah.
Okay, so as far as narrowing down to the three hormones, it was pretty simple because the it was uh like the reproductive organs were the main ones influence, so it really pointed to an androgen. And you combine that with the fact that the glucose test didn't really change, it basically narrowed it down to these three. And we chose growth hormone because of the overall just increase in size of a lot of things, including the just like the body weight in general. And then we chose estrogen and testosterone because of the increase in the sex organs. And
You may go next slide.
and then as far as which of those three we thought it was, we were pretty sure it was testosterone because of the increase in the overall body mass. And then next slide. And then as far as the test we picked, our first test was the behavioral test because we assumed it was testosterone, and the behavioral test would have shown increased aggression and stuff like that. And then we really just picked the other two blood tests to narrow it down even further to guarantee that it was testosterone. And well, I think that's pretty much it for that one.
Okay. So for the test results of the RIA test, it was a 27% increase in the available hormone of estrogen, and then we saw roughly 400%, so 4 times increase in the testosterone, which is exactly what we were expecting because we thought it was testosterone. And considering that testosterone, some of that gets converted to estrogen, we were expecting there to be slightly elevated estrogen and a multifold increase in testosterone over that, which is exactly what we saw. And then in the behavioral test itself, as you can see, the control, general levels of activity, sleep-wake cycles normal, interest-specific interactions normal, whereas with the experimental rats, elevated activity levels, which you would expect with testosterone, increased sleep to wake ratio because it causes insomnia because of the serotonin levels, increased aggressiveness. Well, again, that goes with the higher levels of testosterone causing agitation. The appearance, typical muscle size and tone with the control group. With the experimental, the body weight was up, the muscle size was increased, the tone was greater than normal, which you would expect in higher levels of testosterone. And then obviously it says here that they had acne, which I think is a little quip that the professor had in there. You can go to the next one.
Which basically ruled out growth hormone because growth hormone couldn't cause acne.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this goes into a little bit further detail as far as the behavioral test and what exactly the difference between the control and the experimental were as far as the behaviors, which is something that we kind of just already went over. So we'll go past that one, go to the next slide here. Testosterone affects behavior. So testosterone, the reason we thought it was testosterone because of the increase in size, the increase of the sex organs, and the fact that the big standout factor was the fact the uterus was significantly larger but was pale. Which if it was an increase in estrogen, you wouldn't see that. Whereas if it's testosterone in the females, you would expect to see that, which is exactly what we saw. And then the reason that we also knew it wasn't estrogen because we saw elevated levels of estrogen, but we saw 14 times the factor of testosterone over estrogen. And because of the aromatase that converts testosterone into estrogen, we would expect to see slightly elevated estrogen. So all of that is on par with expecting to see. Testosterone is the hormone, and we obviously already ruled out growth hormone up to this point. So go to the next slide here.
Oh, yeah, next one.
And then the reason that we would see sleep-wake patterns different because of serotonin reuptake because of higher levels of testosterone. It also suppresses cortisol, which is a stress hormone. One of the reasons that bodybuilders use exogenous testosterone, other than its muscle building effects, reduces cortisol. In reducing cortisol, it's labeled in here, cortisol, serotonin, and testosterone are the three hormones that interact to manifest behaviors. And when you have higher levels of testosterone and lower serotonin and cortisol, you're going to have more aggressive behaviors and you won't be able to filter that out, which is what we've seen in the aggressiveness of the over the control rats being more aggressive. Their sleep-wake patterns were different, which is we would expect to see with testosterone levels. Their muscle mass was increased, which we would expect to see because of the inhibition of. Go to the next slide here.
Yep.
So there is an anabolic effect that would increase protein synthesis, and then it would inhibit the destruction of protein. And then this just goes on to explain. So go to the next slide here. And then as you can see from our control to our experimental with estrogen, there was no overlap there. It was statistically significant. With the testosterone, it was not even close to being overlapped. It was a fold increase that was very significant. So that's obviously leaning more in favor of testosterone. If you go to the next one here. So given that we have a 14-fold increase, both of them being statistically significant, but yet we're seeing 14-fold in testosterone over estrogen is a clear sign that if you're giving an exogenous hormone and it's 14 times different, that's pretty significant difference to say that that alone pretty much points in the direction of testosterone. And the big reason it could be estrogen is because if it was estrogen and not testosterone, we wouldn't see the results in the RIA that we see. We also wouldn't see the body mass increase that we see. There'd be more fat gain and water retention than there would be muscle mass. We also wouldn't see the male sex organs grown to the degree they did. If not, they would actually be decreased in size. And then the uterus wouldn't have been increased in size and pale. And then this goes on to explain a little bit further in detail as far as conversion of testosterone to estrogen in the male brain. Go to the next slide.
I think it's the last one.
That's the last one. Okay.